Thanks for doing the thing. All right, we did it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to wasmCloud Wednesday for Wednesday, November 20th. Coming in hot from the conference last week. I think everybody's still kind of, traveling back home, getting their bearings, remembering what day it is, all that stuff. But never forget wasmCloud Wednesday. To kick off this meeting today, we have a couple things on the agenda, but we have two new community members, or at least new to the call. Clayton, would you like to do a quick introduction of, I guess, what you do for work, what brought you to wasmCloud, all that fun stuff?
Yep. Hi, I'm Clayton Davis. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, United States. Glad to be here for my first meeting. Joined up with the wasmCloud Contrib Fest last week at KubeCon North America. Had a good time. Really great community so far. So love it. It's lovely to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Clayton. And yeah, for what it's worth, I know that you've already gotten an issue merged into Wash, so
With a
we
lot of
love to
help.
see it.
A lot of
Oh,
help. Yeah.
sure, sure. And then Florian, you also, I know that you attended our Wasm Innovation Day. You met us at KubeCon in Paris back in the day. But yeah, same kind of thing. Would you like to do an introduction and everything?
Yeah, many thanks. Hi, I'm Florian. I'm located here in Berlin, in Germany, actually, where the weather's not that nice currently, so quite a lot of rain, but better than for my colleagues in Hamburg, actually, but different story. So yeah, nice to be here for the first time in the Wasm Cloud community call. As I said, I tried to get in touch already, but unfortunately, way less than I wanted to. And I stumbled upon wasmCloud back in Paris, actually, and was immediately hooked and was really interested if this could be the next evolution step in cloud computing. So I'm working as a cloud architect for a big company here in Germany, let's put it like this. And we are always dealing with containers and our customers thinking that actually containers are the new hot shit. And I think that's not true anymore, definitely. And yeah, that's why I want to get involved with the hot new shit.
Right on. Well, if you're looking for the next big thing, you're in the right place. Well, thank you both so much for doing an introduction. And welcome everybody who's tuning in after meeting last week at the conference. Like we mentioned, there was well, we'll do a little bit of a KubeCon wrap up later, so I'll pause on doing the full retrospective. But why don't we go ahead and get started? Just gonna go ahead and share my whole screen. You get the whole thing because you all are special. Uh, First, what I wanted to show is a quick demo of one of the things that I did during my talk, which I thought at KubeCon, which I think was just super cool. I wrote this is just going to be another example, maybe that we contribute up to the Wasm Cloud repository, but I'll talk through kind of what that is and what it does. Nothing too crazy. It's just going to be a short demo, and then really just to kind of set the baseline. Like I said, everybody's kind of getting back. I want to talk about last week's KubeCon, WasmCon, do a little bit of a wrap up, and send you all the links to the recording since they are now up and published. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull up my VS Code window. This was actually the demo that I did for my talk, which was during the security track, and it was all about like different layers of platform security that we do with Wasm Cloud. But the key focus is like the WebAssembly component boundary, how it's a list of allowed or denied by default capabilities, and then just kind of leveling up from there. And so the end result of this demo is a WebAssembly component that's written in Go compiled to WebAssembly that implements like an OAuth flow. So let me go ahead and stand up Wasm Cloud locally. This is just going to launch Wasm Cloud, Nats, and Wadum, our deployment manager. And whenever we get an application that has a secret, we're going to send a request to the subject, like wasmcloud.secrets. So we have pluggable secrets backends for Wasm Cloud. And I'm just going to use the NAT secrets backend for this. So the second part of setting up this demo is just running the NAT secrets backend. Like I mentioned, this is an OAuth an OAuth example. So what this actually does is there's a client ID and a client secret here in little .in files, not committing them to Git and all that fun stuff, and not actually embedding it in my application. So the really cool bit here at the bottom is I'm using the wasmCloud secrets interface to pull out the client ID and the client secret at runtime. And then I'm actually so confident that this the way that we do secrets in wasmCloud, where you initially get a secret and then have to reveal it to actually use the value. I just print out the kind of the opaque reference. This was kind of I guess, a cocky way to show that when you get the secret reference, then you don't actually get that into memory. You have to reveal that specifically. So this returns an OAuth config with my client ID and the secret. And after deploying my application, I can actually go to my local host and use it to log into GitHub. I forgot we have chat. Hey, that's fun. Okay, so let me go to, ooh, not that. Let me go to GitHub really quick. And one thing that I need to do is I'll clear my cache and my cookies so that when I go localhost 8000, sorry for all the dark moders out there. I didn't add dark mode support into this one. I can actually hit /login. And then that will go to my GitHub auth app that I've kind of pre-configured. I can log in. I don't know why my two-factor is broken there, but I get to do the fun thing where I show you it's really real and sign in using my mobile app. And then this will actually redirect me back home and give me all this fun information about my GitHub like identity. So this is great. I've shown like an actual OAuth implementation flow. Now, why is this so cool? First of all, the way that I implemented this OAuth flow is actually just using regular Go libraries. Like the functions that I'm using here are either coming from NetHTTP to do like the redirecting and fetching a token, or the golang.org /OAuth2 or /OAuth2 GitHub to actually do the redirects for this, or actually implement the functions for login, for callback. So this is something that could compile straight to like regular Go as well. But we were able to just make use of that right out of the bat, thanks to our really nice component SDK, where you can essentially just be working with a regular net HTTP response writer and request. So first of all, that's super cool. The second really important thing is if I inspect this component, and I'm just going to bring up some of the code for reference, you can see that two of the capabilities in this list are wasmCloud Secrets Store and wasmCloud Secrets Reveal. So the follow-up to this talk demo, which I haven't quite got to yet, but is my goal, is to open source this component as a reusable HTTP component that actually only has access to the secret store capability. And what's really cool about that is you'll actually be able to look at this reusable component and know that it can reference a secret at runtime. So it can get the client ID reference, get the client secret reference. But if you look at what the component actually has access to, you'll see it's just an opaque reference. It's not the actual client ID, not the actual secret. And then your application itself just needs to be the thing that has permission to reveal that secret to create the configuration. So, I mean, there's follow-ons to this demo and other different layers of platform security going on here. But I thought this was really cool just to show another example of an idiomatic regular Go library that you compile to a component, implement something common that's really used everywhere, like an OAuth flow where you just need a client ID, a secret, and a redirect URL, and kind of show where this demo is going with this reusable component. So that's the piece I'd actually like to open source as an example, and maybe even implement it in Rust. It was just so nice to implement in Go thanks to those like standard library tools. So I wanted to share some of the some of the cool sauce from the demos at the conference. It wasn't the only one. I mean, there were many, many other cool demos, workshops that we can talk about as well. But I'm curious if folks had any questions on this kind of OAuth component.
Should we, sorry, uh, should we treat things like this as, let's say, an OAuth provider, if you want to call it, for components to want to make authenticated cards?
Yeah, it's a
Or
great
build
question.
it into the, I mean, these sorts of capabilities, it's a kind of a general architecture question, right? Because I'm an architect, I'm always interested in this design conversation. So do we consider such thing to be suitable for the core component, or as, let's say, a provider type that is attached to the host and then provide such services, let's say, to components?
Yeah. This actually this component. The idea for this component is a little bit in the middle, being a reusable component that all like components could make use of to add an OAuth flow to their workflow. I think that it really is powerful doing this from the as a reusable component because it gives you that flexibility to, I mean, it is kind of providing that OAuth capability, but it's doing so in a way that you can compose those components together into a single component for efficiency. You can just kind of take something, take a component that's like an HTTP microservice, and essentially, if a request is coming in for the slash login or slash callback pass, then you can have something just automatically handle those, and then you have an authenticated set of requests to your app. I don't think either one is invalid. But I think that the flexibility or the control that you can have over the secrets interface here lends itself really well to this being a component, or a reusable component, or as Bailey has kind of called it, a platform harness. Bailey, is there any more that you wanted to add on to that kind of
Yeah,
explanation?
I just wanted to say from an architecture perspective, what we're seeing people do, we're definitely in this stage right now where we're seeing many flowers bloom. So there's lots of different approaches in WebAssembly and WebAssembly components. We don't know which flower smells the best yet, but there's definitely two key patterns that have totally emerged. There's the platform harness component pattern. Sometimes Luke calls those donut components. I think that's a fun way to talk about it, but for me, I prefer calling it platform harness because it really describes what it is, which is the platform engineering team creates a component that they maintain, they update, it decides how to do all the middleware work that you typically would have otherwise baked into your business logic component. And they can update that independent of the business teams. That's great. That's really nice. You can also get that benefit from the provider side. But what I love about the platform harness component is that it encapsulates the component, right? Like I can take that component, run it anywhere, but it's harnessed, it's wrapped, it's like it's being covered by a donut. And so it like has those guarantees that it's going to go through all of those flows versus taking this component and running it with a provider or some other type of host plugin to make it work. But if your platform team is on the side of we provide it, let's say a serverless platform built on top of wasmCloud, then the other second super common approach is that people are creating essentially an invoker or a platform provider that kind of like invokes the flow and kind of does all of this initially and then hands that on as part of the request. And to me, that's pretty similar also to what we see with like the way people work with sidecars and service meshes. It's kind of the same idea where they do all the work for you before they invoke the business logic side of things, and they pass all the information through on headers.
Yeah, it sounds like we have a really good opportunity show how this pattern works in our examples, because I know that like the experience that we're really optimizing for wasmCloud is that end user developer experience. Like I sit down, I write Go code, and then I ship that application to prod, and like the different layers of like harnesses and middleware and platform engineering around it, I think are something that like it's a different persona who's writing those. But it'd be really cool to, if I'm say I'm just like an individual developer and I want to add this OAuth flow. I think it'd be really cool. Yeah, I do mean Rust code, but this is a hypothetical. If I want to add an OAuth flow to my app, then I would love to pick this already implemented little building block out of some marketplace registry wasmCloud example and just kind of bolt it on, and then now I have OAuth. Stuff is really cool.
Hey, related to wasmCloud, like no, not wasmCloud, the company behind it.
Cosmonic.
Cosmonic. Oh, God, sorry. Related to Cosmonic, like, do you have a way right now with the HTTP component to have this pipeline and filtering capabilities? And the reason I'm asking is because, like, in the DO scenario, the platform engineer would put that filtering there and then move on. So the product engineer don't have to worry too much about it other than, hey, read it, decode it, or introspect the token.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Victor's comment. I mean, it's a great question, and thanks for putting it in that kind of perspective. There's nothing that we have behind like a proprietary wall that does this fun stuff. It is all open source, and I think that just like this this idea of the platform harness is things that we've seen people do. We've seen them do it kind of internally to their company to like write a platform. And so really I think the only bit is us kind of taking that and contributing that back to the open source there. But that's not anything that we're like, I mean, just to be candid, that's not anything that we're like holding as a part of as Cosmonic or something like that. Because all of that is just WebAssembly components and wasmCloud, right? Like to do that kind of service chaining with HTTP is totally just like one component exports HTTP and imports HTTP, and you can just stack them together.
Right.
Now, of course, there are the caveats that we mentioned in chat around hollables, but this works really, really well for like a couple of components today.
Yeah, I think this particular pattern is so common that most people will run into it, or if you give them, a solution, probably will be extremely beneficial. Because one concern I have, like, yes, it's just connecting HTTP or whatever, but and this is just me lacking of understanding of wasmCloud, but I don't want to be paying the cost of NATs or that serialization, right? Like I really want that pipelining to be like one big component that is extremely optimized in memory, everything. And figure out this pipeline and filtering composition is actually like probably a decent, important component to have in hand. Or uh CRDT, like, whatever the way you want to do it, but, a simple way to just compose things together. And
Yeah, totally. And the I think this brings up a whole other host of discussions that I think aren't fully formed yet. We need to kind of put them in an RFC, but just around like the most common cases of like the HTTP case and optimizing that in the host. There was actually I believe PhD student, so correct me if I'm wrong, in the community Slack, who's looking to kind of do in-host or in-process communication between components to skip that NATS hop, and with proper manipulation, we're holding the resources on the host side. Like, we can have a component call into another component over HTTP, but not actually transfer that resource around in memory. So we can skip the NATS hop, we can skip the mem copy, all kinds of interesting optimizations there that you get a lot from doing the NATS hop every time. Primarily, it's very predictable if you have a really distributed deployment. But for the really common case of where components are running on the same host, that's something that we're looking to introduce, I think, likely as a feature flag, because it changes things and we want to be able to tease that out first. But skipping that RPC hop when the components are running right next to each other is, I guess it's the second lightest weight thing you could do over just composing them together when you build the component. But that's totally on our radar.
Isn't it just kind of a weighing or weighting problem or approach, let's say, based on
I think,
instance, for example?
I'm sorry, Masood, I started talking before you finished. Based on what was that?
No. I mean, considering similar to the Big Brother's scheduler that can have different plugins that basically says how I want my workloads to be configured based on different characteristics. It could be, for example, cost, distance, other things, right?
Yeah. I think it really is more of like, if you mean why we haven't done it yet, it really is more of like an optimization case, like making sure that we are introducing it, when it's most beneficial for the people who are doing development. But I think it is. Oh yeah, Bailey, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to say that the persona that we seem to be appealing most to, wasmCloud, that is appealing to others, is that there are a lot of platform engineering teams that are building platforms of platforms. And so I think often we originally always were thinking about the end user developer that's creating their app and making all these choices. And I think there's a key user story here that is, it's the platform engineering team that's actually going to be making a lot of those choices about what type of authentication are they going to do? What type of, flow is this component going to run through as part of its regular life cycle? And so I think that I do want us to have this like bucket of building blocks that people can pick and choose from. But I want to make sure that we also really hone in on that specific persona that is focused in on that problem. Because I think at the end of the day, your end user developer is like, yes, I want this. Please tell me how. But it's not necessarily them that are deciding how all those other aspects come in for the full platform.
Bailey, what would you like to see until, like, how further we could kick the can, right? To ask the platform engineer to be in the pipelining or user experience of the product engineer versus adding this type of complexity in the infra, right, and open up. And what I'm thinking is, okay, well, the platform engineer could always provide their own SDKs that wrap things for the product engineer. And at that point, we get the benefits and the situation we wanted. Granted, the downside are versioning, things like that, recompilation, stuff like that. But what would you like to see overall in this topic to happen in?
I think declarative composition is going to be one of our biggest superpowers here. So having a walk file that the platform engineering team maintains, it's sort of like if you think about how platform engineering teams today maintain a Docker image, like a base Docker image, and then the other teams build on top of that. In the same vein, I think that we'll have these walk files that are like, okay, you gave me your business logic. I'm part of the CI pipeline. I'm going to compose with it declaratively with this version of the walk. And then that is the version that will ultimately, the compose component will be the thing that we load into OCI. I think there will be even more flows where we want to be able to also just update this composition, potentially even at runtime because the component changed. We're not quite there yet with Walk being integrated, excuse me, deeply into the wasmCloud platform itself, but I think that that is another potential direction that we could go. Okay, yeah, I could say whack. I'm saying walk. I'm being weird. I don't know. It's Wasm compose. That's WebAssembly composition, I think is what it stands for. And the verb for when you compose two components is you whack them together. I like that. That's kind of easy. We used to say smoosh, but I think this is better. It's potentially more easy to understand. But yes. So I think that part is interesting, and I am sorry that we have another WA word in the ecosystem. We're not going to stop. So if you're hoping we were, that definitely isn't going to be the case. I'm sorry, I'm responding to chat. It's probably really confusing, so I'm going to just stop talking.
Yeah, for all of you who want to be part of the inside conversation, this is an open community meeting. Anybody's welcome to join the Zoom. But in all seriousness, apologies for not repeating some of the stuff in the chat. It is really just side channeling and
So I have one
sending
last
memes.
comment based on what you said and Bailey said. Because after your talk, I wanted to say that maybe we should emphasize more on composition. And I assume that with this, we will see more talks and documentation about composition and showing people how to do it and promote it, right? That's a good guess.
I totally agree. I plan on going really hard in the paint, aka that's a basketball sports term. I mean, I'm definitely gonna go really deep on technical documentation, blog posts, and everything with composition, but I'm mainly waiting till WASI P3 to really start pushing that for end users because the caveats with composition with WASI IO is pretty challenging for folks to understand. If you We call it the hamburger problem. But essentially, if you have a WASI IO pullable, aka maybe even WASI HTTP on one component A, your business logic is component B, and then component C also wants to chain on here and do a component. I hope everybody's had lunch because I'm talking about donuts, now we're talking about hamburgers. But in this hamburger, this is a problem. This is a real challenge. And so there's a couple tricks to get around it, but those tricks shouldn't exist. Those tricks fade away with native async, aka the pullable that Brooks mentioned earlier, being pushed into something that's managed by the runtime. Now the components don't have to worry about managing that across all of these different component states. And so you can make as many sandwiches as you want. Triple decker clubs, totally cool. Hamburgers, all of it. But right now in WASI P2, there's definitely some tricks that you have to do when you're working with composing with WASI IO pullables, which a lot of these interfaces implement if they're using streams like WASI HTTP.
Yeah, I know we're maybe about halfway through the community meeting here, so I might put a little pin in this one. But thank you so much, Eric, for linking to our documentation. Let me go ahead and actually share my screen here. There's no reason not to show it. There is at wasmCloud.com. If you go to the platform overview under linking components and then linking at build time, there is a whole wealth of information here on when you should link at build time, how you can compose using the WebAssembly compositions tool, aka WAC. That's what we've all been saying here. The only other thing that I would shout out here is that if you're using wasmCloud, since the beginning, you've been doing this kind of composition pattern that we've been talking about, even if you haven't realized it with our linking functionality. So you've been composing your application with an HTTP server implementation, a key value implementation that uses Redis or that uses NATS-KV. And so I think this is such a core to WebAssembly's power, and what makes wasmCloud so flexible is this interface-based composition. So as Bailey said, we I think are just going to go hard in the paint on all the composition bits. And I don't really know if there's any more to say there. Just making it easier and easier to compose these application components together. That is kind of like what component model bread and butter. So all great stuff. So unless folks had other comments on that one, I would propose maybe we just move on to the next agenda item. I don't think it's going to take us the rest of the community meeting, but just to keep it flowing. And then we'll have some free time at the end too that we can talk about open things. So what we about half of the wasmCloud team was in Salt Lake City last week. So we were at KubeCon EU, LOL, not yet. We were at KubeCon NA and WasmCon NA pretty much all of last week, and it was a pretty huge success for wasmCloud and just the general Wasm ecosystem. We published a blog last week, 2 weeks ago, on all of the different talks and sessions and everything that we would have at KubeCon. I would recommend giving this a read if you wanted to see where all we were. We actually need to go back through and update the links, but just to give you a couple ideas of some of the things that were really successful. We had 2 workshops immediately at the beginning of the conference, which were awesome. Hundreds of people in a room that were trying out Wash and wasmCloud for the first time. Some of them hadn't even heard of WebAssembly at all, which was a huge benefit of the conference being on, or like the co-located event actually being on Monday. All of the videos are actually on the Linux Foundation YouTube now. So let me go ahead and send this one in chat again. Oh, hey, now everybody can see it. But this is on the Linux Foundation YouTube. There's a playlist called WasmCon 2024. And so you can actually find all the talks that spoke about wasmCloud there. One of them, for example, was this elevating serverless platforms with Wasm components. And Ritesh, who's been here on the community call, talking and interacting with all of us, and Vamsi, 2 awesome engineers at American Express, talked a lot about WasmCloud during this talk. And so this one is a huge one to keep an eye on. Same with Unleashing the Power of Open Source Wasm on a Hyper-Distributed Cloud. Such a cool title, it doesn't even fit in here. These are just 2 of the talks at the WasmCon conference that spoke of WasmCloud, and would highly recommend checking these out. So what we're going to do after the fact now is go back through this blog and insert kind of the links in line so that people can see it. We may even just do kind of a wrap-up post as well, but the same kind of wrap-up post that we've done in years past. The same kind of wrap-up posts that we've done in years past are kind of harder to do now. Like that was when like I could sit in a room and watch every single WasmCon talk and then type up a blog about it. And now there's 3 different rooms. It's over 2 days. There's talks at the main conference. It's too big for one of us to do one of those blogs. So it's really cool. Thank you, Bailey, for the shout out. Yes, in the Elevating Serverless Platforms talk, they did talk about the platform components, the pattern that they're using to deploy. Specifically, they talked about an authentication component that kind of wraps all of their like functions that they deploy on the FAS platform, and that's kind of the pattern that they're using. And they have like pretty nice diagrams on there, and they actually showed a demo of how it all worked at the end too. So, excuse me. So, in terms of some of the previous blogs, that is a must see talk. Everybody should watch that talk. Everybody who's anybody should watch that talk. Okay, just kidding. To give you, outside of the talks, outside of the buzz, awesome to meet all of you in person. We had some other really awesome things happen last week. Light mode warning. We've been pretty loud about it on the socials because we're so proud of where we are in the community now. But if you open up the CNCF landscape right now, you can skim these bigger boxes or whatever. And this is so minor, but you can skim the big boxes. And over here, you can see, a little project like Kubernetes and this little project like wasmCloud, which now has its own big box because wasmCloud is now an incubating project in the CNCF, which was a huge milestone for us to meet. Just about 3 years after entering the sandbox, the CNCF has been awesome for providing us this place where we can, meet contributors, where we can be a part of an open foundation and kind of be that community-driven project. So we're super excited to have the maturity of the project be recognized in this incubating tier. So we talked a lot about that at the conference, had a lot of interest there. And I think it really showed with, if you take a look at some of the charts, I posted this right before KubeCon, probably cutting off right around here, saying, hey, look at how much our contributors have grown, contributions have grown in the past year, past 3 years. And I just want you all to look at how the contributions have grown in just the past 2 weeks or just the past week, where we had people coming in at ContribFest, we had new people coming in from the conference, giving us a try, even anything like filing in, how do I do a month? Even everything from, okay, I don't know how to do it. It's fine. Hey, there we go. From filing an issue to making a comment to making a contribution, this number has just gone way up in the past couple of weeks. And so, I want to keep that going, keep people involved in the community, because a lot of people are still looking at WebAssembly, like some of the top three interesting things coming out of the conference for people, not even just in the wasmCloud ecosystem, are WebAssembly, security, and there's one more that I probably shouldn't be forgetting. But lots of cool things coming out of it. A really, really successful conference, and I just appreciate you all listening to me in my mostly recovered conference voice after being at the booth all the time. So I think, oh boy, just gonna skip that one. I think we had an awesome conference last week. Thank you all for tuning into the community meeting, where it was just me sitting up on a stage and making everybody forcefully participate in their first community meeting as I did a demo for them, which is a lot of fun. But um, I think we have kind of come back this week full swing, just catching up on all the GitHub issues, some of the contributions that have come in over the weekend, which is awesome, and going from there. So looking forward to cutting a new wasmCloud and Wash release here pretty shortly, just to get out some of the new goodies that people have contributed, and you can see your work fully in action. I think that was all that I had. I just wanted to give a broad stroke overview of how the conference was. Let's see, Liam, Bailey, Jonas, Taylor, Victor, thank you. All of you were there. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about the experience over the last week?
It's pretty unreal. First of all, I wasn't explaining what WebAssembly is. I think I only said WebAssembly is neither web nor assembly, like maybe twice, which is kind of crazy for a conference. So like it's real now. And a lot of people actually not just knew about WebAssembly, but they knew about wasmCloud and they wanted to get involved. So that was, yeah, kind of magical. And then also seeing people at the project pavilion wearing our wasmCloud t-shirts, hanging out there and, talking about the projects that they're working on, but also being, big time fans. That was really special.
I will say, I think I learned that at WasmCon to not assume that people knew what Wasm was, because we had so many new people with the overlapping two communities coming together. So that was really awesome. Like in one way, I was like, oh, I wish we didn't have to explain this every time still. But I think it was actually really good to be able to talk to so many new people, and had really, really good conversations at the main event as well. So I think overall, it was just impressive to see how much the community is growing and how many people are excited about learning how to make the most of WebAssembly. So it was really good to see.
Awesome. Well, for folks that this is their first community meeting, usually if we have any time left over, we just kind of there's always the option to give people a little bit more time back in their day, but just kind of open forum here to the topics that people have about wasmCloud that they wanted to discuss with everybody here, or things in the general WebAssembly community that we wanted to dive in deeper for. I'm just gonna go on mute for a second. Anybody's welcome to kind of raise their hand and go for it. Hey, Liam, what's up?
Once again, that time of year. As of this moment, KubeCon 2025 London submissions are due at the end of the week. I have joined the chorus of folks begging for relief, and that they might postpone that date a little while to give us some rest between Thanksgiving and reInvent. But as of now, the relentless death march of open source continues. So with that being said, we certainly encourage and invite everyone in the CNCF wasmCloud community. Feel free to partner with us to help shape your talk, craft your talk, and get it submitted in time. Now, this deadline is only for KubeCon proper. Now that wasmCloud is a CNCF project, one of our benefits of being incubating is that we do get some dedicated talk time and a few other benefits. So as a community, we'll need to decide what foot we're putting forward and who's going to elect and give those talks. So I would also welcome some discussion there. That CFP lapses in a few weeks after already. So we do have time for our sort of incubating community talk. But as always, if you would like any help preparing a topic, code, slides, architecture, anything else, whether it's for KubeCon or any other talk, feel free just to hit us up on Slack. I just go to slack.wasmcloud.com and you're in. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. A very important update. Yay. Speaking of KubeCon, though, sorry, I'll let that one ruminate for a second. But speaking of KubeCon, we did have a community member come in a little bit earlier today who was looking out for interest in KubeCon India and wanting to meet up with anybody there in the community who's going to be there, like connect with the Wasm community. I promised I would do a shout out and thank you, Aditya, for reminding me. But if folks are looking to kind of do a little Wasm meetup at KubeCon India. I don't think any of us from the core maintainer team will be there, but I'm sure many folks will be there from the wasmCloud community. So come join our Slack, come get connected with the folks who are going to be there. And if you're looking to do a little like sidebar discussion workshop on wasmCloud, again, please feel free to let us know, and we'd be happy to help get involved kind of virtually for that.
Can I ask, Aditya, are you planning on attending?
And for what it's worth, unfortunate.
I mean, if there's someone in our community that's planning on going, I would just put the call out that we'd love to support your efforts in any way we can. So I can certainly ship handouts. If somebody has the PDF handy, maybe you could pull up and share your screen. We have like some really nice wasmCloud platform engineering handouts and things like that. And I'd be happy to have them printed there remotely or shipped to you. If we could get somebody to staff the CNCF wasmCloud booth on the floor, that would be amazing too. So I think all of those would be great, and I think we'd be more than happy to partner with you in your efforts here. I think I've got the handout. Let me just get it pulled up here. Version 1.8. All right, so this was Brooks. Do I have permission? I do.
Oh, how the turntables. I'm glad you have it.
No. So this was the handout that we used at KubeCon, and it's really designed to help you communicate with the two intersecting personas that we're targeting. The first persona being the small group of platform engineers that run the platform, make sure it's stable, and satisfy the three key jobs for all the thousands of application teams. And for the application teams, we have the back here, which really talks about how we help satisfy their 3 key journeys: create a new project, update a project, and maintain vulnerabilities on a project. And more specifically, how we automate that 3rd step by moving from a world where thousands of application teams patch the same vulnerability one time to a world where one platform engineering team can patch thousands of apps at once. That's the sort of key, one of the key benefits we have of moving to a componentized world, whether you use it with containers or not.
The other side of the handout's my favorite side.
Is it?
The platform engineering side. Yeah, I use that one a lot at the booth. So I think it really, really helps to have the handout. So yeah, reiterating what Liam said, if you're going to WASM.io, WASM Day London, or KubeCon India, or KubeCon Japan, let us know and we'll hook you up.
I almost feel, Bailey, like we need to take this section down here. Like we've kind of buried the lead here and blow this out into a whole explainer, you know?
It was fun talking to the GitLab guy with that bottom part there. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like I got to break out my microscope or my magnifying glass. I don't know why I need a microscope, magnifying glass, in order to like zoom in on that. So maybe we can reiterate and make another version of these. We should also get that PDF posted up on the wasmCloud.com website, just so folks can generally get to it.
Brooks, are we still recording?
Yep. Yeah, we are.
Okay, cool.
You got fun.
Checking.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think oh no, Dia, are you trolling me? But I did type okay, we're just memeing in the chat now. All right, this is probably a good time. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming to the community meeting this week. As usual, if you have any requests for things you'd like to demo or show off or add to the discussion items for next week, you are welcome to edit the agenda on Git or just reach out to one of us on GitHub, all that fun, or on Slack, all that fun stuff. Taylor sneaking in before the deadline. What's up?
Sorry. I just wanted to say, I know we kind of briefly mentioned it in chat, but I want to say it again. Even though the deadline is this Sunday, if anyone in the community is really interested in giving a talk together with one of the maintainers, like use cases, experiments, whatever, like let us know. We'd love to talk about it. So like if you're doing, this is anything from research. We've had a lot of people doing research with Wasm, and you're like, hey, I want to present with one of the wasmCloud community members, reach out. If you're like doing something with wasmCloud, reach out. Like we'd love to do like those talks are both fun for us and nerd nip for all the people attending the conferences. And no, the event does not have to be KubeCon or WasmCon. Like we're open for anything. Specifically this week we're talking about KubeCon because that's when it's due. But like we have Bailey's listing all the things we can do. So anyway, I just wanted to call that out because I don't think it was forceful enough. Please let us know because we love doing those things. They're really, really, I mean, I absolutely love it. And I think all of us who've done it before love doing that with people who are doing it because it brings such a unique perspective because you essentially have subject matter expert and somebody who's been really interested in actually using it. And that's always a great talk. So just calling that out one more time.
All right, everyone. Then that's probably it for today. Thank you so much for coming to the WasmCloud Wednesday. next week is not a holiday, so we will be here. Well, we'll be here even if there are a holiday. We always hop on for like a few minutes, but we'll be here normally next week, and and I and that's it. Thank you so much for coming this week, and we'll see you.